Hi, welcome to Personality Hacker. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
Today we're talking about the Myers Briggs personality type, INTP, or in our genius system, accuracy exploration.
So we will talk about, or have talked about, INTP personality types more granular in other content, but what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of riff on the topic of INTPs, give some of our insights, maybe some of the things that we've noticed about them, and talk about some of the ways that they can develop their personality type to become the best versions of themselves and to become a gift to the world. Now, the reason why it's so interesting to talk about INTPs in that way is I think a lot of INTPs have an attitude about what they're going to give to the world. I think they actually really do want to make an impact. I think they really do. But one of the issues they face is that, I mean, just statistically, they have the highest IQs of anybody. And so there's this feeling about INTPs that they are legitimately smarter than other people in the ways that society traditionally thinks about intelligence, right? Like in analytical intelligence and that sort of thing. And so there's this idea of how smart they are, and then at the same time they are profoundly misunderstood. In fact, I think a lot of them think that they have autism or Asperger's or some other, or they've been like given titles like, they have ADD. And I think that's not exactly what's going on with this type. Like they feel like society will not accept them, but at the same time, in the weird way, sort of celebrates their intelligence. So they don't really know where they stand.
Yeah, we have a friend who is a mom of a kid, a child, who I believe is an INTP after meeting him. Mm-hmm. And she is worried. She thinks he might have autism. She thinks he might be broken. And I think this is something that a lot of INTPs deal with, is the people in your life have a tendency to think there's something wrong with you because you think fundamentally different and you kind of show up in the world in this way. People are like, there's something wrong with you. What's wrong? You're broken. You got to get fixed.
Yeah, I know of an INTP kid whose parent took them to a psychiatrist and said, fix this kid because he's broken.
Yeah.
And so not that all INTPs are going to face this. There's a percentage, though, that ends up getting this sort of bad rap. And I think it's because, I'm fairly certain it's because they lead with a process called accuracy. Now, accuracy is a thinking process. In the Myers Briggs system, the cognitive function is technically called introverted thinking. And the accuracy process is all about seeing information and data as truth separated from any emotional component. Meaning, we want to know what the data says. Like, give me the information separated from what we want to think that information says, or any emotional attachment we have to the information. And so because they're so focused on information that removes the human emotional component, and when I say emotional component, not necessarily removes the human, right? Humanity is part of information. So you don't remove humanity, you just remove the emotional biases. Because they're so focused on that, when people show up wanting to interject emotional and social biases, it's very frustrating to the accuracy person. And they will oftentimes go, well, that's stupid, right? Like, and let's just give like a non-abstract example of this. I always think of it in terms of like the 7-year-old that goes to school and the teacher says something is true. And the 7-year-old accuracy person has done their own research already and knows it to not be true. And so they correct the teacher. And the teacher tells them to shut up or diminishes them or says that that's not respectful. And here's the little 7-year-old accuracy person going, but I know this to be true. I know you're wrong, right? And they focus on the data and they don't care who's the person, who's the teacher, and who's the student. All that is important is whether or not the information is correct or accurate. And so because they have so many of these experiences from the time that they're really little, all growing up, there's this sense that it's like them against the world, right? Like the whole world just wants to regurgitate this information that may or may not be true and doesn't really want to put true thought into it. And anytime you state what accuracy is or truth, then all of a sudden everybody dogpiles you. And it really feels like the INTP doesn't have a place in the world.
Yeah, and the INTP shows up with this ability, this genius ability to be able to clean slice information. Mm-hmm. And I've been in conversations with INTPs before, and you'll be talking about a subject, and they get very nuanced on exactly what we're talking about. And if anything's distracting from the issue, they can say, well, no, that's not, this is what we're talking about here. We can deal with that in a moment, but this is what we're talking about here. And they've got a really a great knack for being able to focus in on data and stay on topic and really get granular with that data to the point where it's very usable. It shows up as a genius for them. They can use it. I mean, a lot of INTPs are scientists and great thinkers, great mathematicians. They show up in the world with the ability to manage mass amounts of data very quickly.
Yeah.
And so it's a brilliant function that they lead with, this accuracy function.
Yeah, but if they're not developed, unfortunately what ends up happening is they end up getting further and further away from relationships and other people. They end up sort of cloistering themselves in their homes, or they just don't want to have to deal with the quote unquote real world, the world that they feel perpetually rejects them. So in order to become the best versions of themselves and become like mathematicians or, people who have extraordinary things to give to the world, in order to do that, they have to develop that co-pilot process of exploration more and more. Now, exploration is all about trying new things. To an INTP, putting themselves out there and trying new things can be scary because they haven't always gotten the best feedback. But the more they do that, the more they're willing to put themselves out there and experience the world through travel, through foods, through, picking up new hobbies. And you went to a class.
I took an
improv class.
Yeah. An INTP was in the class, and he was purposely trying to grow his secondary process, his co-pilot, and he was getting into improv and all these new experiences. He was actually going and meeting women, and he was doing all this stuff that he'd never tried before. He was like 22, I think. And you could see the glow in his eyes of the growth he was doing. And he was a really cool guy. I loved the fact that he wanted to grow like that. It was really neat.
Yeah, and people who really develop the exploration process usually get higher and higher charisma. Charisma oftentimes comes with exploration because exploration people are so free and fun and willing to try new things. They're wild and crazy, etc. So the more an INTP can get into that exploration process, the bigger the world gets, the more information that they can add to their already extensive data collection. They understand new concepts in reality, as opposed to just in an abstract. And also they increase their charisma. So their interactions with the world, the feedback they get is better and better. And so really the key to the whole operation for them is to develop that co-pilot process. Now, if you are an INTP and you're interested in getting more tips and tricks on how to become the best version of your type, and again, to bring amazing things to the world, we recommend going to our website, personalityhacker.com, and to the tab that says Take the Test. It'll send you through the Genius Style Assessment. If you've already gone through that and you've discovered that you are an INTP or an accuracy exploration type in the Genius Style Assessment, we want you to give serious consideration to getting the premium content, because there's some incredible information in there on how to become the best version of yourself and to become a gift to the world, which you may or may not care about, but I do, because I think you're amazing. And I want you to bring your incredible concepts to the rest of us and be a true gift.
So you think INTPs are amazing, which I agree with you.
I do. I actually love INTPs.
What's a secret about INTPs that most people wouldn't realize?
What is the secret about INTPs that most people wouldn't realize?
Or even INTPs wouldn't realize about themselves. But most people do realize secrets about themselves.
Oh, I think INTPs know this. INTPs are surprisingly interested in their reputation. Their reputation is actually very important to them. So even though they're very egalitarian when it comes to information and data, like, if the janitor has a great idea, then we celebrate the janitor. It doesn't matter that they're a janitor. There is something about their reputation that is very important to them. They want to be well regarded. They want to be respected. So one of the reasons why it's so painful to them to get rejected is that their reputation is important. They want people to know that they have something to offer. And I think they hide that away from other people, and they hide that away from themselves because they don't want to have to acknowledge that maybe they don't have the reputation they desire, but it's actually very important to them. And that makes sense because you want to be well regarded for your work, right? That desire to have a good reputation is part of the aspiration of them bringing their concepts, which are inside of them, to the world, right? It's part of their DNA makeup that gives them that extra oomph or impetus to not just conceptualize all this data inside of themselves, but actually package it and give it to the world so that the world will give them positive feedback.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us on this quick riff on the INTP personality or the accuracy exploration in the Genius System.